Okay guys, today we are learning about roots, square roots and cube roots. And the most important thing you need to remember about this is that a square root and something to the second power are actually inverses or opposites. So if I were to write the square root of 10 and I took that to the second power, well, the exponent and the square root cancel each other out. So this answer would actually just be 10. Now let's try the cube root. If I take the cube root of 7 and I take that all to the third power, same thing with this. The exponent in the cube root, well, since they're opposites, I just get what's left in the middle, which is 7.
Okay, so now we're finding square roots. So what we need to do is we need to find the opposite of, well, this 64 has been squared. So something times something equals 64. And this something right here needs to be the same thing. So we're looking for something that's been squared to equal 64. And we can use our calculators when we're in class, but right now we know that 8 times 8 equals 64. So our answer is just 8. That's it. Now, this one right here, a little bit trickier because of this sign, this plus and minus. What this means is that there's two numbers. There's a positive number and a negative number that are going to, when multiplied by themselves, equal 1.21. And if I use my calculator, I take the square root of 1.21, it's going to tell me that it's 1.1. So that's the positive. The positive number is 1.1. But we know that a negative number times a negative number is a positive, so negative 1.1 times negative 1.1 equals 1.21. So our answer is plus or minus 1.1. Final answer.
Let's see what's next. Okay, here is a square root of a fraction. And when we have the square root of a fraction, I'm actually just going to rewrite the square root of the top number times the square root of the bottom number. Now be careful, you don't want to put the negative on both places because two negatives always equal a positive. So I'll put my negative with the top number. Doesn't matter, you could do it either way as long as you just have one negative. And I'll have the square root of 36 on the bottom. You can plug it into your calculator, or if you know it by heart like I do, you can have negative 5 on the top because 5 times 5 equals 25. And on the bottom we get positive 6 because our negative's on top for our final answer of negative 5 over 6. On the bottom here, we have a square root of a negative 16. Now we need to stop and think about this. If there's only one negative, that would mean we'd have to multiply a negative 4 times 4. Well, we can't do that because the square root means that you have to square the exact same number. Well, this 4 has a negative and this 4 is a positive, and those are different. So this cannot be done. So if you ever have a square root with the negative on the inside, there is no solution. Don't let that one trick you guys. The square root or the negative on the inside you cannot do. If we look up here, the negative is on the outside, so that one we can do.
Okay, this next one, we have t squared equals 169. So, like we talked in the beginning, squaring something is the opposite of taking the square root. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to solve for t squared. We want to know what just t is. So in order to solve for t squared, we need to take the square root of it. If we take the square root of it, that will get rid of that square. So now we're just left with the t. And if I take the square root of one side, I have to take the square root of the other because they are equal. We need to keep them equal. So the square root of 169 is 13. And to check this solution, right here it says check your solution. To check this, what we would do is we would just take 13. We would check to make sure that 13 squared equals 169. And you can do that. You can take 13 times 13. 13 times 13. Yes, it does equal 169. So we're happy. That's the right answer. And we're moving on.
Ooh, here's some cube roots. Now don't let these trip you up. The cube root just means you multiply the same number 3 times instead of 2 times. So I want to ask myself, well, what number multiplied by itself 3 times equals 125? And since I'm full of answers today, I know that is 5 times 5 times 5. And this is why they gave me the teaching job. So 5 times 5 times 5, if you punch that into your calculator, that equals 125. And that's the cube root. You can also punch that into your calculator if you want. Now this one, we could not take the square root of a negative number, but we can take the cube root of a negative number, and let me show you why. Because we can multiply negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Well, if we have an odd number of negatives, like we do here, 1, 2, 3, our answer is going to be negative as well. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals a negative 27. So that is an important fact. You might want to put a star next to this one. You can take the cube root of a negative number, unlike the square root of a negative number. So this, once again, Miss Hoffman, we are happy with the right answer.
Awesome.